I never expected my daughter would choose my in-laws over me, but then, my life changed forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sky was gray, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. I stood in the kitchen, hands trembling as I poured the coffee. The bitter smell invaded my senses, but reality was far more bitter. My heart pounded like a drum, each beat echoing the dread clawing at my chest. I glanced at the clock, feeling every second tick by like an eternity. It was a normal Saturday, or at least it should have been. My husband, Tom, was out running errands. He never came home for lunch, and I found myself staring at the empty chair across from me. Evelyn, my sweet daughter, was supposed to be here, too. But she was with them. With my in-laws. The thought gnawed at me. How could she choose them? They only ever saw me as an obstacle. As if I wasn't good enough. I could still hear their whispers from our last family dinner, the sharpness of their laughter cutting through to my core. Evelyn, sweetie, why don't you come with us instead? Such a simple question. But it was a knife cloaked in kindness. As the afternoon dragged on, the silence around me grew louder. I paced the living room, the carpet soft beneath my feet yet feeling like a storm-tossed sea. I could hear the wind howling outside, a melody of chaos matching the turmoil inside me. Suddenly, the door swung open. It was Evelyn, and she was not alone. My heart sank, and I felt the world shift beneath me. My in-laws followed behind her, smiles plastered on their faces. But something in their eyes spoke of secrets. Dark, twisted secrets that sent chills down my spine. "Mom, look who I brought." Evelyn chirped, her voice a melody I once adored. But now, it felt like an alarm bell rushing through me. Their presence suffocated the air, turning my home into a battlefield. "Evelyn, we need to talk," I said, forcing the words out through the lump in my throat. But it was too late. She avoided my gaze, her focus on them, not me. Laughter erupted, blending with the tensions that clung to every corner of the room. I wanted to scream. To tear apart the fabric of this surreal moment. Instead, I stood frozen, watching the bond between them bloom like poison ivy. The more it grew, the more it strangled me. My heart raced, each thump echoing the thousand questions swirling in my mind. Why? Why now? What were they really planning? Then, amidst the laughter, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in my daughter's eyes, a momentary break in her smile. Was it doubt? No, I had to believe it. But as quickly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving behind an ache that clawed at my insides. And then they were gone. Slamming the door, laughter still ringing in the air as if I'd just been the ghost in my own home. I collapsed onto the sofa. The silence was deafening. I felt a tear roll down my cheek, an unwelcome reminder of the reality crushing me. What was happening? How had I lost her? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night wore on, thick with a heaviness that pressed me down into the cushions of the sofa. Memories of Evelyn's laughter rang hollow in my mind, replaced by echoes of the joy she now seemed to find in my in-laws' presence. I tried to shake the feeling, but it clung to me like a stubborn shadow. I glanced at the clock, 9:47 p.m. Surely, she would be home soon. I picked up my phone, hovering over her contact, anxiety tightening my chest. Should I call her? No, that would only push her further away. I decided to send a simple text, just checking in. Love you. The blue bubbles danced in and out, ultimately fading into silence. I turned my attention to the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. Each droplet reminded me of the tears I had yet to shed, locked away behind a fragile facade of motherly strength. Just as my eyelids began to grow heavy, the door creaked open. Evelyn stepped inside, shaking off the last remnants of the storm. She was soaked, but it didn't seem to bother her. Her face glowed with an innocent glee that had me momentarily disarmed. "Mom! You won't believe the fun we had." She beamed, her voice sparkling brighter than the distant lightning. My stomach twisted. It was an insidious happiness that felt cruel. "Tell me about it," I murmured, attempting to infuse warmth into my voice, all while battling the unresolved hurt swirling inside me that we played board games. "And Grandma makes the best hot chocolate. You should have come." Her excitement spilled over, and I noticed the small droplets of rainwater still glistening in her hair, as if she had just stepped out of a fairy tale. A quick glance at her left hand revealed a charm bracelet that had not been there before. Each little trinket glimmered in the dim light, telling stories of memories I wasn't part of. My heart sank further into despair. "Did you enjoy their company?" I asked, cautiously probing, but my words sounded sharper than intended. Evelyn's smile faltered for a brief moment, and in that second, I saw the uncertainty that had flickered earlier in the day. "Yeah, I did. They just have a different way of having fun, you know." "Different how?" I pressed, but the question felt wrong, loaded with the weight of accusation and bitterness. "Mom." She rolled her eyes, but it wasn't with the usual teenage disdain. There was an edge of pleading in her tone. "Can't you just be happy for me? They care about me." Ouch. It struck like a wasp's sting, sharp and unexpected. A lump formed in my throat, and I brushed it away with a breath. "Evelyn, I do care. I just miss you, that's all." A fleeting expression crossed her face, a mingling of pity and confusion. "But I'm right here, aren't I?" It stopped me in my tracks. Yes, she was here, but she was not truly present. Her heart had drifted somewhere I couldn't follow. The silence grew thick and suffocating, ripe with things unsaid. "Why don't we make some hot chocolate together?" I offered, desperately yearning for some bridge back to her heart. "Just like you did with Grandma." Her expression shifted slightly, apprehension dancing in her eyes. I was going to take a shower. "Maybe tomorrow." "I'm really tired." "Of course, sweetheart. Tomorrow sounds good too." The words tasted like chalk, rough against my tongue. As she rushed off to her room, I leaned against the kitchen counter, the smell of cocoa stirring angry memories of warmth that felt more like a lonely whisper now. I grabbed my phone instinctively, the screen lighting up with a notification, a message from my sister-in-law, Linda. "Hi, just checking in. Hope you and Ev are doing well. Hope to see you soon." My fingers hovered over the screen, but instead of replying, I felt a surge of defiance welling up within me. Did they even care? Did they truly want to be in my daughter's life, or were they just playing a game? A grinding wave of fury rushed through me, accompanied by a tension I couldn't ignore. I needed to understand how far they were willing to go. I needed to dig deep, find the truth. Hours passed, the ticking clock marking time as I plotted my next move. I could feel my heart racing, anticipation mixing with dread. And just as I wrestled with my thoughts, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo from Evelyn, the charm bracelet shining against the backdrop of bright, cheerful faces. But it was what they were holding that sent my breath hitching. A piece of paper. An invitation to some event. An event I was not invited to. "Mom, look at this." Her text read, but my eyes were drawn only to the revelation hidden in the image. My grip tightened around my phone. Was this what they united over? A chance to exclude me, to further dilute my place in her life? I felt the familiar ache swell anew, mixing with a surge of protective jealousy. A moment later, I heard Evelyn call from her room, a sweet voice breaking through my darkening thoughts. "Mom, can we talk about something?" I stood frozen, faced with the decision to approach, or hide from the burgeoning storm I sensed brewing within her. Hope and despair tangled in my chest as I squeezed my eyes shut. "I'm here," I finally replied, though a knot tightened in my throat, both anxious and incredulous at what this moment could bring. A pause lingered before her voice replied, cracking slightly, "I don't know how to say this, but," and suddenly, the world felt like it was about to unravel once more as I took a step toward the door, each heartbeat resonating with an ominous, anxious rhythm. I hesitated by her door, the air thick with unspoken words and heartache. "But?" I prompted, hoping to draw out the thread of her hesitation. The words stuck somewhere between fear and resolve. I might want to spend the summer with Grandma and Grandpa," Evelyn said, her voice barely rising above a whisper, but it crashed against me like a tidal wave, pulling me under. "They're more fun, Mom. I feel like I can be myself with them." The statement hung in the air, a leaden weight pulling me down. "You mean you don't feel like you can be yourself with me?" I managed to articulate, each word laced with the bitterness that rose to the surface. No. That's not what I meant. Her tone was sharp, but I could see the confusion battling within her. "It's just they have all these activities planned, and they really want me there. They make it exciting, exciting." Another jab. My heart curled at the word, twisting painfully as it underscored an unwelcome truth. I had become predictable, mundane. In her quest for excitement, I was being pushed into the shadows. "I thought you loved our time together too," I said gently, the words rolling out like a gentle plea. "I do. Of course, I do." She opened the door wider, her eyes reflecting a mixture of frustration and hurt. "But whenever I come back to you, it feels like I'm stepping into a cage where I'm not allowed to enjoy things. It's all about rules and chores." Her frustration dripped like rainwater off a roof, washing away my hopeful thoughts. In that moment, the floodgates of a long-standing emotional reservoir opened up between us. "I never meant to cage you, Evelyn. I just wanted to protect you. I wanted to keep you from being hurt," I said, the desperation climbing with each word. "From what, Mom?" "They love me," she said, her voice pitching with an intensity that startled me. "You love me too, but you don't understand that I want this. I need to see what my life can be without worrying about making you happy all the time." The air crackled with unshared secrets and submerged feelings. As I stared into her eyes, searching for the little girl who once needed me for everything, I felt a thread of desperation connect us, fragile yet potent. "I'm scared, Evie," I admitted, the confession softening the barrier between us, even if only slightly. "What if they hurt you? What if they don't truly care? That's not fair." She protested, but the heat in her voice softened. "You put me on an island, Mom. I want my place too." "What do you mean?" I asked, sensing the shift, the deeper emotional core enticingly close but elusive. "I mean you always make things about you. I can't be here and also be there," she said, gesturing vaguely, her eyes taking on a distant look. "I love them, and I can love you, but you always turn it into a comparison. Why can't I just love them without it meaning I love you less?" The truth of her words resonated, vivid and painful, like a bitter truth hidden in plain sight. I inhaled sharply, grappling with the realization that I had been pushing her further away with my grasping fears. "I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. I just want to be part of your life," I replied, emotions swirling chaotically within me. The brief silence that followed lingered, heavy and filled with a nebulous tension. I wanted to reach out, to pull her back into my embrace, to reassure her I could change, I would change, but for the moment, I felt immobilized by the weight of her words. She stepped back, her frame suddenly smaller and more vulnerable before me. "I need space to figure this out," she said, hesitating, as if testing something new. "Can you give me that?" The request felt like cold knuckles rapping at the door of my heart. "Space," I repeated, contemplating the echo of her voice, wondering how space could exist in a house filled with people. Space was what I had dreaded, yet here it was, a necessity. "Yeah," she nodded as though trying to convince both of us this was a reasonable solution. "Just until I decide what I want to do. Because I don't want to lose you either, okay?" Somewhere amid the wreckage of this conversation, a flicker of hope. sparked. "Okay, Evelyn," I whispered, and even if it felt like I was fraying at the edges, I took a step back, offering her the space she craved. As she retreated to her room, my heart surged with confusion and sadness. I wanted to embrace the hope she offered, but the shadows still loomed, thick and suffocating. I sank onto the living room couch, a storm brewing in my chest. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the blaring sound of notifications lighting up my phone. I picked it up and froze. There was a group message from Linda that included a video link. "We're all so excited about the summer camp, you just know Evelyn will have the best time. Just wait until you see the surprises we have planned." A multitude of colors exploded across my screen, and my pulse raced as I realized Evelyn hadn't told me about this camp or its coincidental timing with her potential trip with my in-laws. My got twisted with betrayal, anger, and urgent questions about everything that had unraveled that night. How could this be done behind my back? What was happening to my family? Just as I contemplated whether to confront Evelyn again, her voice rang out from her room, a laugh, bright and unfettered. The chill of her joy settled uneasily within me. "I need to know everything," I whispered, half to the night, half to the set of choices twining in front of us, choices that could either tear us apart further or, perhaps still, bind us in unexpected ways. But at that moment, one thing was certain: I was standing at a precipice, and when dawn broke, it was bound to lead somewhere I hadn't expected. I stared at my phone, my heart racing as Evelyn's laughter echoed in the background. The tension in my chest tightened, each breath a struggle. Her joy felt like a chasm between us, one I couldn't fathom crossing, with the weight of betrayal pulling me down. The sudden realization that there was a plan in motion that I wasn't a part of sank deep into my gut, spiraling me further into despair. That I switched off the screen, trying to suppress the whirlwind of anger and disappointment that surged through me. The laughter from her room felt cruel now, as if the universe itself took delight in my anguish. Each peal of her delight was a reminder of my own missteps, my lack of awareness. I thought I knew her, understood her heart, but had I simply been drowning in my own fears, neglecting her own aspirations and choices? The silence that followed was almost more deafening than her laughter, pressing on my ears until I felt the walls closing in around me. I pictured my daughter thriving, surrounded by my in-laws' endless energy and affection. Would she even miss me in the midst of their excitement? Would I become an afterthought, a shadow of a mother living in the past? Desperation nudged me towards her door once more. I hesitated, fingers hovering above the smooth wood, heart pounding against my ribcage. Should I confront her about the camp? Or would that only deepen the divide? Each option felt riddled with potential heartbreak, a precarious choice that could either tear us apart irreparably or knit us back together with newfound understanding. After a slow inhale, I knocked softly. "Evelyn." I called, my voice trembling with a mixture of hope and dread. "Can we talk?" There was a brief moment of silence before she opened the door, the bright light from her room spilling into the dim hallway like a hopeful promise. Her smile faltered as she processed my expression, the joy fading into a cautious concern. "Mom. What's wrong?" "I just saw the message about the summer camp," I blurted out, the words tumbling out clumsily. "You didn't tell me you were planning to go." Her gaze lowered, and in that moment, I could see the familiar struggle within her, caught between loyalty and independence, between fear of disappointing me and the desire to explore her own path. "I didn't want to upset you," she admitted quietly, vulnerability creeping into her voice. "Upset me?" I echoed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why would you think I'd be upset? I just want to know what you're thinking, Evie. You're allowed to have your own plans." "This is why I wanted space," she admitted, frustration lacing her tone again. "I don't want to tiptoe around you. I'm trying to figure out my life, and I felt like sharing that with you it would only hurt you." A knot formed in my throat as I realized how utterly different our worlds had become. "I just wish I could be part of those conversations, part of your decisions." "Don't you want me to be?" I asked, pleading with the remnants of our bond, desperately seeking a way back to common ground. "I do. But I can't live my life just based on what you want, Mom. I can't be the daughter you expect me to be," she replied, her eyes wild with emotion. "I need to breathe too, the rawness in her voice hit me like a blow. I suddenly recognized that this wasn't merely about my in-laws, it was about us, our roles shifting as she grew. I didn't want to suffocate her with my emotions, nor did I want her to feel as if her successes were seen as betrayals to my love. I stepped back, giving her the space she'd asked for, yet I felt a bitter sadness wash over me. That I just need to know you're safe, I whispered, my heart aching at the chasm that separated us. With them, with anything. I need to trust that you'll make the right choices. That I know, she said softly, her defenses splintering as she stepped outside and closed the door behind her, creating a barrier but one that felt thinner somehow. But I need you to trust me as well. It's a two-way street. That I in that moment, the burden of silence hung heavy between us, a fragile thread that could snap at any instant. I saw her standing just beyond the door, silhouetted against the light, a vivid embodiment of everything I wished for her: freedom, joy, the chance to explore life on her own terms. As I turned away, contemplating the tumultuous road ahead, I felt a sudden burst of energy, a new resolve igniting within me. If I focused on building her trust, perhaps we could forge a way through this confusion and fear together. With the heaviness still sat upon my shoulders, I moved to the living room, searching for something to distract me. That's when I noticed a small box resting on the coffee table, its vibrant paper beckoning in the dull light. Curiosity piqued as I reached for it, flipping it over to reveal an envelope tucked underneath. It was addressed to me. My heart sank as I recognized the familiar handwriting. I could hardly breathe as I opened it, anxiety bubbling up within me anew. The words seemed to leap off the page, each one a harbinger of some impending revelation. As I read, my heart raced with each line. There, in that moment, I not only grasped the complexity of my relationship with Evelyn, it felt as if shadows from my past sought to entwine with our present. Everything in me screamed that I had crossed a line I never wanted to, yet the letter unfolded secrets that could not be ignored, relentlessly threading through our lives. I was standing on the edge of a precipice, the truth knocking, ready to shatter everything I thought I understood. Then the world dimmed around me as the weight of the revelation settled. Just as I prepared to grasp its full impact, the front door swung open, and I heard footsteps. "Mom. What are you doing? Are you okay?" Evelyn's voice broke through. And with that, the storm of emotions within me began to churn. How could I explain to her the tempest I was facing? I could only stand there, heart racing, frozen in the swirling uncertainty of what lay ahead. I was certain of only one thing: the world as I knew it was about to shift beneath us, and I could only pray we would find a way to navigate the chaos together. The box remained on the coffee table, a silent witness to the turmoil brewing inside me. With Evelyn's footsteps echoing through the hallway, the monumental weight of the letter still sat in my hands like a jagged stone, ready to cut through any ounce of coherence remaining in my thoughts. "Mom." Her voice was tender yet edged with urgency. I turned to face her, hoping to mask the turmoil radiating from my expression. "Are you okay?" I couldn't find the words, couldn't unravel the depth of the storm inside. I was supposed to be the anchor, the steady force in her life, but in this moment, I felt adrift, lost in uncharted waters. "I just found something." Evelyn stepped closer, her gaze darting between the box and my expression, suspicion flaring in her eyes. "What is it?" I hesitated, aware that revealing the contents of those words might shift our fragile equilibrium further. "It's just a letter. Nothing to worry about." Her brow furrowed, knowing better than to accept my half-truth. "You're not telling me the whole story. Is it about Dad?" The question lingered, a delicate thread tugging at the fabric of our unspoken pains. That I exhaled slowly, the walls closing in around me again. "It's about the past. About family." I placed the letter in the box, desperate to shield her from the fallout that could shatter whatever semblance of normalcy we still shared. As if sensing my retreat, Evelyn remained anchored in place, crossing her arms. "You can't keep hiding things from me, Mom," she admonished, the intensity of her gaze piercing through my defenses. "That's what I was trying to say earlier. If you want me to trust you, you have to be honest. No more secrets." Her words stung as they bounced off the walls of the room, echoing with the weight of my own secrets. Evelyn, please, not now, I implored, my voice trembling. I felt her disappointment like a dagger, compounding my own fears. This is just complicated, the last year has been complicated for both of us. She shot back, frustration spilling over. But I can't stop caring just because you wish it could go back to the way it was. I need to know you're here and not just going through the motions. The truth of her statement landed heavily. She was right. I had been retreating into memories of what we once had, smothering her growth as she tried to navigate those very memories. I'm trying, Evie. I really am, I said, my voice softer now, laden with regret. Trying isn't enough. She clenched and unclenched her fists, resisting the urge to yell or cry, significantly more composed than my frayed composure would allow. Just let me in. There was a heaviness in the air, a war brewing between her impatience for honesty and my instinct to shield her. I thought of the letter, how it threatened to lay bare secrets that might deepen the rift between us or forewarn her about the cracks forming in our lives. Okay, I finally whispered, blinking back tears, but I need you to promise that you won't take it the wrong way. They'll try, she promised, though her eyes shimmered with both determination and sorrow. Just tell me, taking a steadying breath, I steered my gaze toward the box, a lifeline and an anchor. As I opened it, revealing the tremors of my past, I pulled the letter back out, my fingers trembling against the faded paper. This is from your grandmother. Evelyn's brow furrowed, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. Grandma? Yes, I nodded, testing whether this confession would only weave tighter the web of distance or forge a thread of understanding. She has secrets about our family, things you never knew. My voice softened, cradling the enormity of what I was about to disclose. Things that might explain why everything has felt so distant lately, why I've struggled to connect with you like I used to. Mom, what are you saying? The hesitancy in her voice mirrored the apprehension swelling in my chest. I looked into her wide, questioning eyes, searching for the courage to continue. Your grandmother wrote about your grandfather, about how his departure affected her, and how it shaped our family. She confessed that there were painful choices made, choices that still echo in our lives today. Evelyn inhaled sharply, those questions burning in the silence. Did she say why? Not specifically. But it makes me afraid, Evie, I confessed, choking on the weight of the admission. Afraid of losing you too. Afraid that the past would seep into your choices, and that you'd distance yourself from me just like I distanced myself from her. Suddenly, the serenity of the room morphed. It felt as if the air shifted, swirling with tension, secrets, and revelations. I watched as realization settled in Evelyn's eyes, the connection between generations forming a fragile yet vital link, one that could either bind us together or separate us deeper than before. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. Are we really going to let her choices dictate our lives? It's not fair. I don't want to inherit shame. I want to choose for myself. That I nodded, understanding flickering between us, the fragile fibers of our bond gleaming faintly amidst the darkness. I just don't want the same patterns to repeat for you. I know, she breathed, a soft vulnerability breaking through her resilience. But you can't keep talking about the past like it's who I am. I need you to trust me as I carve out my path, even if it's different from what you expected. Tears streamed down my cheeks now, each one a testament to our shared wounds, our dreams for healing pressed against the jagged rocks of family history. I'm trying to, Evie. I want to learn how to let you fly. She stepped closer, the warmth of her presence breaking down the walls I had unknowingly built. But just as a faint light unfurled over a long ravaged landscape, the doorbell rang, a sudden intrusion that sliced through the moment with a jarring clang. Who could that be? Evelyn shifted, her momentary reprieve shattered as curiosity washed over her. I don't know, I replied, anxiety tightening in my chest once more. Stay here. I'll get it. But as I walked to the door, uncertainty gripped me anew, shadows from both our pasts mingling with the present as whatever awaited beyond felt like a ripple threatening to breach our newfound understanding. That I opened the door slowly, apprehension radiating from my every pore. The world outside seemed to dull beneath the weight of my emotions, but as I set eyes on the figure standing there, my gut clenched, planting a seed of doubt amidst the flickering hope we had begun to cultivate that it was someone from my past, someone I never expected to see again. The chaos within me reignited, and all I could think about was how I would tell Evelyn, how it would suddenly change everything we had begun to piece together. The storm inside me rose to a deafening crescendo, promising conflict and upheaval as unpredictability loomed like dark clouds on the horizon. The figure on the doorstep was someone I'd never imagined revisiting my life, Karen, my late husband's sister. Her presence was a volatile mix of nostalgia and unresolved pain, a specter woven from the threads of a past I had long tried to navigate away from. The shocked silence pulled taut between us, reverberating with all the whispers of heartache and abandoned dreams. "Karen," I finally managed, my voice cracking like the fraying edges of many forgotten memories. I tried to muster a smile, but it felt foreign on my lips, overshadowed by the heaviness settling in my chest. "Is everything okay?" She hesitated, her eyes scanning mine as if searching for something hidden beneath the surface. I came to see how you're coping, after everything. With your mom and Evelyn." Each word was filled with the weight of history, brushing against wounds I had tried to heal and hide simultaneously. "Things have been complicated," I admitted, glancing back at the living room where Evelyn waited, oblivious to the growing tension hovering at the threshold. How could I explain this? It was a moment where vulnerability hung in the air, pregnant with the possibilities of damage or connection. "No need to worry, Karen started, but her voice faltered, and what was meant to be a simple visit thrummed with the unease of old grievances. "I wanted to help if I could. I heard about the letter." I felt the blood rush from my face, heat pooling in my temples. "How did you?" "Family gossip travels fast, especially in times like these," she said, her tone lightly defensive but laced with an unmistakable softness that reminded me of the lost years and missed chances. "I know you might feel like you're alone in this, but I've been through something similar, and I could. Now is really not the time, Karen," I interrupted, the sharpness in my voice drawing her closer to the edge. "You don't understand." For a moment, I could feel our pasts intertwining, the remnants of family bonds sparking under the weight of unresolved conversations that had never been voiced. The silence stretched, leaving us both suspended in what-ifs that danced just out of reach. "That I might not know everything, but am still family," she replied, her voice softer now, a quiet surrender to the emotions I had buried deep. "I came to help you navigate this. I don't want you to be afraid of what the past brings. Sometimes, it leads us to unexpected connections." Just then, I felt a soft brush against my leg. Evelyn had approached, concern etched in her features as she peered around my arm. "Who's that?" she asked, her curiosity igniting the air between us. "This is Karen, your aunt," I said, a tight smile forming as I watched the lines of recognition but also apprehension cross Evelyn's face. Karen stepped forward, extending a hand toward Evelyn. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Evie. I've heard so much about you. Just be careful," I whispered to my daughter, not wanting her to feel compelled to play the obedient niece or feign closeness to someone whose presence was still marred by my own pain. "You don't need to feel pressured," Evelyn frowned, glancing between us as if sensing the unsaid words tangled with the air. "I think it's okay to talk. As long as we keep it real with each other, right, Mom?" The reassurance in her voice caused a fresh wave of warmth to swallow the anger and hesitation still festering within me. "Yes, that's right," I said, letting the fragile threads of our connection weave together. "But we don't have to do this now." The look Karen gave me held a wisdom that seemed to suggest myriad paths, potentialities that could either entwine us or lead to branching distances. "Maybe it's time to confront the things we avoid, instead of separating ourselves further," she urged gently. "None of us will move on unless we acknowledge the complexities of our pasts." A lump formed in my throat as I met her gaze, the weight of her proposal pressing against my resolve. There was undeniable truth in her words, truth that could cut through our interwoven fabric of family, but it also felt like standing on the edge of a precipice. Ready to leap into the unknown, Evelyn's eyes darted between us, and she took a small step back, sensing the unresolved dynamic that had yet to surface. In that moment, I realized that perhaps the slow unraveling of our lives wasn't merely about avoiding truths, it was about how those truths, when faced, could bind or burn our family. "Can I come in?" Karen asked, her voice optimistic yet trembling, and as helpless as I felt, I glanced over at Evelyn. "Are you okay with this?" I asked my daughter, my heart aching at the prospect of what this could all lead to. Evelyn's face was a tapestry of thoughts, conflict, and possibility, years of tension quietly rising to the crust of her newly forged identity. "I think," she started carefully, "it might not be so bad to understand more. If we're going to move forward, we need to know what we're moving from." Acceptance hung in the air, heavy but hopeful, as I stepped aside and gestured for Karen to enter, the threshold shifting beneath us all. With one foot in our past and another uncertainly stepping into the present, I felt a bittersweet thrill coursing through my veins. But just as the door began to close slowly behind me, churning in that space of healing and fear, the phone rang sharp and demanding, shattering the quiet promise we had begun to forge. My heart dropped. In that split second, I understood that the momentary bond we were beginning to create could be torn apart anew. "Don't answer it, Mom." Evelyn's voice was steady, though tension coiled in her body. "It could be someone else from that part of your life. And you just told me you were trying to let me in, but my instinct was stronger than my reason," and I walked toward the phone, uncertainty swirling within me. I glanced back down at Evelyn and Karen, holding my breath as I picked up. What I heard on the other end sent shivers racing down my spine, altering the course of our night. "It's about your mother," a voice I knew all too well said, "and you need to come home immediately." In an instant, everything I believed I was ready to face shifted, morphing from potentially healing to perilously dark. I had been afraid of confronting the past, and now, it seemed the past was unwilling to wait any longer. The moment the phrase, "you need to come home immediately," settled in my ears, time itself felt like it had come undone. The voice on the other end was authoritative, tinged with a grim urgency that froze the warmth of the room behind me. It stormed in, darkening the sparks of hope flickering between me, Karen, and Evelyn. "No," I murmured, feeling the tendrils of dread curling around my heart. "No. Not now." "What is it, Mom?" Evelyn's eyes widened with concern as she noticed the pallor creeping across my face that I pinched my lips together, trying to stave off the tidal wave of emotions crashing down on me. "It's about my mother," they said. She's my throat tightened, a chokehold around the words I could barely bear to utter. "Is she hurt?" Evelyn's voice wavered, and I could see my own reflection, shaken and pale, mirrored in her apprehension. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice a shaky whisper. They were vague, "but I have to go." "I'm sorry, sweetheart, I have to leave." The weight of those words hung between us, and I could see the disappointment blossoming in Karen's eyes, mingling with the fear already etched across Evelyn's face. "I can't let you go alone," Karen said, stepping forward, her tone suddenly laced with fierce urgency. "If there's something wrong with your mother, you shouldn't have to face this by yourself." I shook my head in a mix of desperation and fear. "What about Evelyn?" I turned to my daughter, who stood rooted to the spot, the unshed tears glistening brightly on her lashes. I had spent years trying to shield her from this family's chaos, convinced I could protect her from its grasp, but here we were, drawn back to the heart of the storm. "It'll be okay," Evelyn insisted, the offer tumbling out bravely, but I could see the flickering uncertainty lingering behind her brave facade. "Go, please. It might be important." The determination reflected in Karen's gaze softened as she considered my daughter's insistence. "She's right," she said gently, "you shouldn't be alone right now. Let me come with you." I fought against the rising tide of emotions, battling between the need for my family's support and the fear of being overwhelmed by unresolved ghosts. But looking into Karen's eyes, I saw something I hadn't anticipated. Offering her help ignited a spark of connection that had once felt impossible. "Okay," I relented, glancing over at Evelyn one last time, desperate to memorize the image of her worried yet resolute face. "Well, go together. Well, figure this out." I didn't want to break the fragile equilibrium we had begun to forge, but life had proven time and again that it marched to its own drum, indifferent to our carefully crafted bonds. As we stepped outside, a chill in the evening air wrapped around us, clinging to our skin like the unsettling truth we were about to confront. The quiet rustle of leaves echoed against the backdrop of distant sirens, reminding me that the world hadn't paused for our revelation. It was relentless. The drive to my childhood home was suffused with a tense silence. Each minute felt heavy, suffocating, as if we were speeding toward a moment I could no longer control. Karen caught my eye, the flickering streetlights illuminating the worry etched on her face. Do you have any idea what's going on with your mom? She asked softly. A bitter laugh escaped my lips, more a reflex than a genuine response. Not really. The last time I heard from her, she was. I choked on the words, the sound catching in my throat like glass buried deep within. Things had been rough. She was alone. What if? Karen hesitated, the tension evident in her voice. What if she needs you? My heart twisted painfully at that thought. The estrangement had been a shield, a defense mechanism born from a long history of misunderstandings and self-defense. My mother's unyielding stoicism had pushed me away until the ache of distance was easier to accept than the paralysis of love mingled with disappointment. Maybe I haven't been the one needing her, I whispered, suddenly consumed by guilt. Maybe I've been too self-absorbed to see it. Karen turned her gaze back to the road, her quiet understanding offering a salve to my deepening conflict. When we finally arrived, the sight of the familiar house clawed at something deep within me, a powerful mixture of nostalgia and anxiety. I hadn't stepped over that threshold in years, and it was being thrust upon me now, unexpectedly, like a long-avoided storm on the horizon. As we entered, the air inside felt thick with forgotten pain and mingling memories. The scent of stale paper and dust particles floated in the air, whispering reminders of my childhood, once filled with laughter, now suffocated under the weight of unspoken sorrows. The living room sat eerily still, the remnants of a life I once cherished lurking in the corners. Where are you, Mom? I called softly, stepping further inside, every step echoing like a pulse pounding, trembling, uncertain. Karen clung to my sleeve then, her touch grounding me as I felt the walls closing in. You can do this, she whispered. Just then, a voice echoed from the back, fragile and strained. Is that you? God, help me! I froze, my heart racing dangerously against my chest, the dread pooling around my feet. I'm here. My voice trembled with an unsteady courage. Emerging from the shadows of the hallway, a familiar silhouette stepped forward. My mother was pale, her face gaunt and smeared with tears as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper in her hands. At that moment, everything shattered. The distance, the unspoken hatred, the love condensed to an urgent gasp, trapped within the consuming tidal wave of fear. Mom, what happened? I stammered, the warmth of connection I'd started to forge with Karen dwindling into a cruel flicker against the fervent ache in my heart. It's about Evelyn, she gasped, her eyes wide and frantic. The words threatened to unravel the very fabric of our already frayed family. You need to know the truth before it's too late. An icy rush of dread cascaded down my spine. The uncertainty of what she was about to reveal threatened all the hope I had barely begun to stitch together, and my heart plummeted into a pit of darkness, an abyss into which I was being thrust, whether I was ready or not. And in that pivotal moment, before the truth coiled like a serpent around my heart, I realized that what lay ahead would change everything. The silence that followed my mother's revelation felt monumental. A tapestry of anxious threads wove through the air, tangling around my heart and squeezing tightly. What do you mean, Mom? What truth? My voice trembled, a fragile thing verging on desperation. The lighting in the dim hallway flickered uncertainly, casting long, wavering shadows that felt like they were reaching toward us, ghosts of the past grappling for recognition. Karen was beside me, her presence a quiet beacon amidst the tumult, but even her hand on my shoulder couldn't stave off the rising tide of dread. Evelyn, my mother said, her voice cracking with emotion. You don't know about your daughter. She's in danger. Danger? I echoed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. From what? Who? The shadows deepened in her eyes, and I felt that old, familiar wound opening, the one that had festered between us for years. There are things I should have told you long ago, secrets that I thought were buried. Secrets that haunt our family. The weight of her words pressed against my chest, bringing with them a potent cocktail of anger, fear, and bewilderment. I had sought answers for so long, but I wasn't prepared for this dance of shadows that threatened to swallow us whole. What are you talking about? I demanded. Just tell me. Frustration seeped through my veins as I glanced at Karen, desperate for her grounding presence. Her concern was palpable, but even she seemed shaken. There's something about the way things were, my mother continued, dodging my urgency. About our family's history with the Wyatts. It's not just a name, it's a legacy, a curse, really. I thought I could protect you from it. I flinched at the mention of the Wyatts, the in-laws I had not yet acknowledged for fear of their invasive presence. I had known their reputation, the turbulence they brought, but I had hoped we could exist in peace, two families threading together through love, not blood and bitterness. But what does that have to do with Evelyn? She's connected to all of it more than you know. They're watching her, my mother insisted, her voice trembling with urgency. A jolt of panic surged through me, and I felt the echoes of my own childhood fears creeping back, the helplessness I thought I'd left behind. Why didn't you tell me? Why now? I thought it would all stay hidden. She took a step closer, her hands shaking. But there are whispers, dark things that linger. I've seen them at the edge of my vision, the Wyatts. They've come back to claim what they believe rightfully belongs to them. And now they want Evelyn.no. The word escaped my lips almost like a plea. The weight of motherhood rushed back in full force, a fierce protectiveness kindling anew amidst the chaos. I had faced so much, endured crucibles of shame, but this one felt distinctly different, the kind of threat that no amount of love could shield against. I won't let them, something flickered in my mother's eyes, raw fear coupled with regret. You can't stop this, and neither can I. They're coming for the legacy, the powers passed down. They're trying to claim it, and only Evelyn holds the key. My mind raced as this new reality unfurled before me. What do you mean? What key? The family secret they'll expect her to choose, just like you. Our lives are tethered to choices that were made before you or I ever existed. But she deserves to know the truth so she can make her own choice, untainted by our fears. The implications of her words sank like stones in my gut. She can't be involved in this. I protested, the mother bear instinct awakening within me, claws out and poised for conflict. That I realize that now, but Evelyn is more than you think. If she embraces the delusions they represent, she could be lost to us. No. The pitch of my voice heightened, visceral and desperate. That's not a fate she deserves. My daughter has no idea what we've gone through, the scars that defined us. I won't allow those shadows to slither their way into her life. I know, my mother said, her voice softening, but the fatigue in her eyes told me she had resigned to a fate I refused to accept. But can you protect her from something we don't understand? They're strong, and they've been waiting. That moment, I felt the earth shift beneath us, chilling anticipation. It was a dance we never chose, yet here we swayed on the precipice of destiny. I turned to Karen, her expression reflecting a mixture of fear and steely resolve. We can help her, I implored, feeling an acute need for solidarity in this madness. Before she could reply, the sudden chime of my phone pierced the Tenziona message blinking urgently across the screen. My heart sank as I saw it was from Evelyn. Mom, where are you? I'm feeling really scared. I think there's someone at the door. All air left my lungs, a suffocating rush of terror gripped me tighter than anything before. Stay where you are, okay? I managed to respond, but I felt the tremor in my own voice. Karen stepped closer, sensing the imminent danger. We can't let anyone through that door. Let's keep her safe. No, my mother interjected, her voice rising above our fray. We must tell her the truth. She needs to choose her own path. That goes against everything. Our fears shouldn't stifle her, but as dread pooled around my feet, I realized there were no easy answers. A choice loomed, an echoing between my mother's urging and the squalls of love I bore for Evelyn, the risk of exposing her to a darkness I had fought so hard to keep at bay. Before I could respond, the door creaked open, and dread coiled tightly around my heart once more. Mom. Evelyn's voice wafted through, hovering just beyond the threshold. Something had shifted in the air, and in that moment, as my gaze darted to the door, I knew that whatever lay ahead would unravel the very fabric of our family. The truth that would emerge was about to shift everything I thought I knew, and that impending storm was rushing toward us, leaving no escape. As the faint silhouette of Evelyn emerged from behind the doorway, time stretched, a surreal pause enveloping us. My heart thundered against the confines of my chest, a primal instinct urging me to shield her from whatever shadows had managed to breach our fragile sanctuary. "Evelyn, honey, stay back!" I shouted, the urgency slicing through the silence, an echo of desperation. Yet as she stepped forward, uncertainty flickered across her face like candlelight dancing against the dark. "Mom, what's going on? Why do you both look so worried?" She took another step inside, confusion knitting her brow. Behind me, Karen's hand squeezed mine, a grounding force amid the encroaching chaos. I could feel my mother's presence hovering, a specter of regret, mixing with the tension that choked the space around us. "Please, Evelyn, don't come any closer," I started again, but the moment that knife edge of fear pierced through me, a stirring wind of defiance surged from Evelyn. Her youthful resolve ignited a familiar fire, manifesting an extraordinary strength I had long admired, though never fully understood. "Why can't I?" she asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "What's going on? I can feel it. It's like there's a storm building in here. You two look like the world is ending." Each word she uttered seeped into the dark room, and it forced me to confront a nagging truth. Evelyn was no longer the small girl I had sheltered. She was becoming her own person, with the right to know what that entailed, even if it meant stepping into shadows I had desperately tried to shield her from. "Evelyn," my mother said softly, stepping forward, her hands raised in a gesture of truce. "There's something you need to understand. About our family, and the Wyatts. It's important." The thought of Evelyn learning of the twisted history churned my insides, yet as I gazed into her earnest eyes, I recognized the flicker of something akin to bravery residing within her. A moment stretched on, fraught with the weight of choices unmade, lying heavily between us. "You're scaring me," Evelyn finally said, her voice quieter, cracking under the pressure of revelation that loomed just beyond reach. "Mom, can't you just tell me what's happening?" As I opened my mouth, 1,000 years of regrets rushed between us. I recalled the nights spent whispering promises of safety, the sanctuaries I had built only to fortify them against the very truths that now danced on the tip of my tongue. Yet there was no ignoring the urgency. She deserved more than silence, more than my fears. "Evelyn," I breathed, gathering fortitude, "there's a legacy, a burden that comes with being part of our family. It's about the Wyatts. They are connected to us in ways I didn't want you to know." A chill swept through the room, pushing Evelyn to the edge of her own trepidation, and yet she stood resolute, a bastion against my indecision. "What do you mean?" Her brows furrowed deeper. "What do the Wyatts have to do with me?" "Everything." My mother chimed in, her voice strengthening with an ancient gravity. "They will come for you, to claim what they believe belongs to them. There are choices you will have to make, and those choices will echo through our families for generations." I saw the growing fear crystallize in Evelyn's eyes like ice, and instinctively I reached out, grasping her hands to reassure her, yet an unexpected jolt of electricity leapt forth, leaving both of us startled. "What do you mean, claim?" Her question anchored us in place, and in her gaze I saw shards of recognition. "They believe your potential holds unlockable power. You're part of a legacy that transcends our understanding, Evelyn." I despised the words even as I spoke them, wanting to banish them from her fragile heart. "But there's danger that comes with it. Wyatts want to control that power. I don't understand," she stammered, uncertainty rippling through her as emotions wrestled for dominance. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Why now?" My throat tightened, grief lacing my response. "Because I wanted to protect you. To give you a chance at a life free from this burden." A tear slipped down my cheek, the weight of it all a tangible reminder of my failures. I thought I could keep you safe, but just as the winds of vulnerability swirled around us, a shadow passed through the doorway, a figure standing just behind Evelyn, cloaked in the darkness of the world beyond. The shape was eerily familiar, a silhouette from our past rising like a specter to haunt what little solace we had managed to muster. "Is it really so bad to embrace your destiny, my dear?" The voice that emerged was a chilling lullaby, synonymous with the very blood that pulsed through my veins, and I felt each heartbeat drumming warnings of alarm. "Lila," my mother whispered, her voice grave as we collectively turned pale. In that instant, my world shifted once more, and I realized that the chill creeping beneath my skin was no longer merely protection for my daughter, it was a call to arms, an intersection of destinies, unearthing the truth of our legacy, and a shockwave of possibilities that loomed darker than we could have ever imagined. Before I could react, Evelyn swiveled to face the newcomer. "Who are you?" Her stormy eyes glared into the night, fierce courage reflected back. The figure chuckled, a soft-sounding melody tinged with malice. "Oh, my sweet child, you have so much to learn. Your choice awaits, and it begins right now." The words hung in the air, a heavy promise wrapped in an enigma, drawing us dangerously close to a precipice we couldn't turn back from. I glanced at my mother, a desperate plea straining my voice for clarity. But choices would no longer be mine to make, and slowly, a profound sense of dread crept through the air, left unbidden in the wake of Evelyn's uncertain future. And just like that, the ground shifted beneath us once more, churning with secrets threatening to push us over the edge into darkness. We were all about to learn just how thin the veil between our choices and our fates could become. I stood frozen in the doorway, my heart pounding as the shadows danced around Lila, the encroaching darkness staining the familiar space of my childhood home. The air crackled with tension, each breath heavy with the weight of foreboding. I felt the arms of fear wrap around my chest, squeezing tightly, and yet I couldn't tear my eyes from the figure that had emerged, shadowy yet compelling, instilling both dread and an odd pull of familiarity. "Lila," my mother breathed, the name tasting bitter on her tongue. West and I shared whispers about her, but hearing it spoken aloud now twisted my heart like barbed wire. "What do you want with Evelyn, oh, dear sister?" Lila mused, her voice a low, silken threat. "I've come bearing an invitation and opportunity for Evelyn to discover her true nature." As she stepped into the light streaming from the entryway, her features illuminated, morphing the echo of beauty into something sinister. My lost aunt taught with power and purpose reminded me of the depths of legacy I had feared. "Get away from her!" I shouted, my voice sharp and desperate, fierce protectiveness swelling within me. I stepped forward, entreating Evelyn to stay behind me, but I felt her pull away, curiosity dancing behind her stormy gaze, a yearning to understand the connection thrumming between her and this specter of our past. "Mom, let her speak," Evelyn said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling in the atmosphere. Courage and confusion warred beneath her surface, and I felt a swell of pride even as panic surged at the thought of her willingly stepping closer to such a nebulous fate. "What do you mean by my true nature?" Lila grinned, a slow, calculated smile that sent a shiver coursing through my veins. "You have the gift that our family carries, child. A legacy that is not a burden, but a power waiting to be unleashed. You are meant for greatness beyond measure." The words hung in the air, clinging to our heavy silence, each syllable taunting the very fabric of the life I had fought to protect for Evelyn. But my mother's eyes held a depth of understanding that whispered of sacrifices made to guard against the darkness they all sought to entwine with destiny. "Your choices will shape not only your life but ours as well," my mother urged, the time-worn weight of regret anchoring her voice. "We've made choices to keep you safe, choices that shielded you from her gifts. We cannot let them take control. But what if I want to explore that legacy?" Evelyn pushed forward, growing bolder, her youthful defiance igniting like flames against my fears. "If it means I can make my own choices, what's so wrong about embracing who I could be?" Lila's eyes sparkled with a promise of the unknown, feeding the budding fire within my daughter. "And what of your mother's fears? What of the chains that bind her to the past?" Each question was a dagger slid deeper into our fragile connection, reminding me of the struggles I had faced. I felt the urge to pull Evelyn away, shielding her from the allure of the darkness that beckoned. "Evelyn, please," I choked out, heartbreak flooding my very essence. "This isn't what it seems. The Wyatts don't care about you. They'll twist everything you believe. I have fought so hard to keep that legacy from claiming you." My plea hung between us, fraught with desperation, begging for comprehension. "Don't you see?" Lila interrupted, her eyes flashing with twisted delight. "This legacy isn't merely a burden, it's an unfathomable call to freedom. A chance for you to become something magnificent." The room felt taut, and I sensed the fabric of our very existence unfurling before us, creating dark pathways I feared. "Magnificent?" At what cost, Lila? The rage burned within me, painting strokes of anguish over the vulnerability between us. What is the cost of this supposed greatness? Evelyn's silence cut deeper than any words thrown about, swelling with the weight of choices that hung suspended in a tension swaying around us. In those moments, I glimpsed the potential for her future flickering like fireflies in the dark, the knowledge of a life I desperately wanted her to embrace, away from legacies and legions. Then, as if understanding the chasm between us, Evelyn stepped forward again. Tell me, please. What will it mean for me? What do I need to do? The determination in her gaze was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. It mirrored in essence. I recognized the same spark I had once held before shadow ruffled my frame. The irony of my feelings clashed as I fought for the grasp of connection, doing everything I could to piece together the young woman before me while battling the specter of twisted fate leading her into the storm. Evelyn, I reached out, desperation bleeding into my voice. It's dangerous. There's so much they won't tell you. Let's choose our own path, one free from their malignant grip. Lila was eyeing us dangerously, darkness licking at her edges like hungry flames eager to consume. The time is past for being ignorant of your power. It beckons you now, sweet Evelyn. You were born to wield it as if struck by a lightning bolt. Evelyn turned to me, her expression fierce with resolve. Mom, if this is who I am, I have to know. You can't hold me back because of your fears. I need to make my own choices. The world spun, my heart fracturing under the weight of both love and fear. The specter of Lila laughed, sharp and taunting, resonating with old resentments that twisted as tendrils around the heart of our fraught resolution. In that moment, the inevitable truth settled heavily on my chest. If Evelyn chose to embrace her legacy, that choice would shape our lives forever, her path intertwined with shadows tied deeply to our family's past, but my instinct, clawing against the thrumming pulse of prophecy, drove me forward. I let out a breath, steeling myself against the impending storm, knowing that I had to trust her not just to forge her own path but to find her place in the choices led by love, not fear. That I spoke the words softly. Evelyn, whatever you choose, I'll fight for your side. I will stand with you, but know that shadows linger in the corners, and you will have to face them with your heart, not just your power. Her eyes gleamed fiercely, the resolve blooming within a bewitching spark I recognized all too well. Then I won't let you down, Mom. It's time for me to step into the center of my path. With a sense of release that suffocated the shadows yearning for power, I stepped aside, allowing Evelyn to choose her fate. Lila watched, the corners of her mouth lifting as she realized the potential looming before her. In that moment, our destinies entwined like roots against the backdrop of ancient trees, embracing the darkness ready to cultivate light. And I knew, though my heart trembled at what lay ahead, this was where the true journey would begin. An exquisite balance of love and choice emerged at the center of the storm, and for the first time, I could breathe. As Lila began to speak of destinies and power, Evelyn took a bold step forward, her voice steady and unwavering against the echoes of our past. I choose who I am meant to be, not the shadow of our history but the light of our future. In that defining moment, one of hope and a reluctant acceptance of destiny, everything felt awash with possibility like seeds sprouting in fertile ground, finally prepared for the sunlight. With one fleeting glance back to my mother, who nodded with resigned pride, I understood that sometimes, the rawness of truth is what we need to embrace our power. And standing by Evelyn's side, deep in the heart of the future, I recognized that love could shatter any legacy meant to bind us. As the shadows receded, the warmth of our love blossomed, binding us in ways I hadn't dared to imagine before. Our fates intertwined, we would step forward, illuminating the path together. And I realized, in the midst of lingering shadows, that the true legacy we would forge would be one of choice, bravery, and unyielding love. Together, we'll find our way, I whispered, knowing this promise would echo louder than any darkness ever could. In that truth, in that power, we could finally be free.